Genesis 26:18 tells us Isaac dug again the wells of Abraham.
In every generation, there have been revivals, massive moves of the Spirit that changed the course of history. In every revival, there were believers like you who chose to answer the call, to become the one in their generation. Discover your call to be the one in your generation.
We're about to take you face to face with history. Welcome to Revival Radio. I'm just here looking through some old relics of revivals. One thing, guys, I want to talk about today is, we talk about revivals and we're always on a journey. In fact, the most common question I get, and I know you guys get it too, is how did you figure that out? How did you find out about Russia and the KGB files? How did you know that? It's all about, well, number one, it's divinely inspired and the Holy Spirit gives us a lot of help. But number two is we start digging on something. It's a place to start. And our scripture about uncovering the wells of revival is always is where we go to what we do know. You start with what you know, Pastor Greg, and you start in and you start pulling out what you do know. But inevitably, it leads to something else that we didn't know about a revival.
You see patterns.
Patterns.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about dates and how things line up, and which we'd never seen before in accordance with Jewish feasts. And it's just, you're like, wait a minute, I've seen that date before, I've seen that. But when you start, pulling things together. Well, some of that happened just recently. Linda, what happened?
Well, basically, we found one phrase when we were studying in the Ulster Revival, and basically there were actually two things. The Swedes sent 12,000 people over to the American Prayer Revival in 1857, were sent home with Swedish Bibles. They went back, and 200,000 people got saved. Then they also said that there was a revival in Paris, France, among the elite.
Wait a minute, in France?
In France.
I grew up in the UK, and we're next door to France, so we're kind of distant cousins. And I've heard of all the revivals in the English-speaking world, but France, surely that's atheist and hasn't had any revivals.
That's what I thought. And I looked at this, went searching, there was nothing in English. Right. And basically, I got to a point, I exhausted everything. And sometimes the Lord will just drop a book, drop a person into our lives. In this case, He told me I needed to go to Paris. Linda Lane, here from Paris, France, and we have found revival. It is an amazing story, and I'm so excited and looking forward to telling you all about it. That was the thing when I went over to the Louvre. This is the little gem I found.
In the Louvre?
Yeah,
You've got to be kidding me.
Isn't that hilarious?
That's in English.
Well, no, actually, some of it is, yes.
Some of it.
But if you notice, one of the things is they're giving away free Bibles. So how do we go from this guy sending people out of the country and killing them and outlying it and saying no Bibles except for the Latin Vulgate, to now we're in the Royal Palace here at the Louvre giving away free Bibles, New Testaments, anything you want. How do we go from there?
The Brits really went to town in translating the Bible, because we had the history in England earlier when the Bible was in Latin, the Vulgate. Right. And so just no one understood anything. So the minister would say, well, God's like this, He's like that. They didn't know. But then, these guys paid a high price. Wycliffe, with their own lives of having it translated into English. And, of course, there's that quote that he said, I want every plowman or plowboy to have the Bible in their own language so they could learn and have their own relationship. But the Brits really then, what you're saying, is got on board and helped the French revival out by translating into French.
And so in the south of France, you had as many as 3 generations that had never touched a Bible, seen a Bible, or had anything to do with a Bible. And yet we had circuit riders that would go and every 2 years check out to see if anyone wanted to be married. But they knew nothing about God. They weren't in churches.
So how does this connect to 1857 prayer revival?
Well, we had the question of how did the Bibles get to the people? So there was literally 3 things. How did the Bibles get to the people? who was involved? Was it a layman's revival, or was it some person that we can put a face to, like we have Jeremiah Lampier? And then we also had the issue of how do we go from the being illegal to now all of a sudden they're passing out free Bibles. So this is a picture of one of the locations that still exists today. The wealthy society ladies decided to hold a prayer meeting. We don't know what motivated them. The historians told me that because this was all hidden, the secular, the Christian, this has become a passion on the part of quite a few. So we were making our way around from location to location, talking with person and read and being directed to look at this article, and oh, it's amazing. And this is one of the homes of the society ladies, and they got people saved. And the interesting thing is not only did they get people saved, they got their husbands saved. And their husbands, and the historians were so excited, they said their husbands just happened to be the inner circle advisors of Louis Philippe I. And he signed the charter that allowed that Bible Society and the Paris Bible Society to give out Bibles. And so that was the answer to that question, how they were able to do Bibles.
So what else did you find?
Okay, so the other question was, who was the face of it? Did they have a face of it? Well, it turned out that the church that we were at, this Oratory of the Louvre, was started by a guy named Jean Menard. And Jean Menard had a revival all up by himself. And see, the thing is a lot of times you'll go and you'll look for, here's the revival I'm trying to get information on, but now you're stuck looking at, okay, here's this other thing. Oh my gosh, here's another revival. And so you find out that information with the goal of being able to get back to where you were at, and get information on this revival. So Jean Menard was the first pastor of the Oratory of the Louvre. And it was standing room only, sitting room only. They filled up the church. The wealthy women would throw their jewelry, give this to the poor, feed the poor with this. And it was revival. And he had 4 sons. And each of those sons turned out to be ministers. And if you recall, the other day we talked about an evangelist, Robert Haldane, a Scottish evangelist who went to a Bible school, led 16 boys to Christ at this Bible school. Well, out of 25 that were there. And he was only there for like 10 months, out of his entire life. He led 16 boys to the Lord, and then he went back home and did all his good stuff. Well, the thing is that 2 of those boys he led to the Lord was our awesome Jean Menard's son, Frederic, and his other son, Adolphe. Well, when these 2 guys, when this guy got saved, he and all the other guys decided to go do, revival. And they didn't know exactly how it was going to work. All they knew was, what can we do to inspire people to accept Christ? Because they now had that new birth experience. So they went to Lyon, which is south of Paris.
Sure.
And amazingly enough, Lyon got leveled with a revival. And so his Adolphe had to start.
So when we say revival, we're saying like what our definition of revival, and people's hearts were turned to God, changed in their behavior.
And the whole, they
And what year is this?
Basically, this is 20 years before our revival. So this is the 1830s.
Okay.
And so Frederic goes to Paris, where his daddy has the Church of the Oratory that we were standing in and looking at. And it's amazing when you're there, because you hear the sounds of the people around, you hear the traffic. You're on these small streets, even if they widened them, in 1857, it was still felt small for what we know here in America. And it's just like a whole different feel and world. And so he's there, and he's the assistant pastor, and he shares the good news of the new birth. And people are, Paris, there's another revival for Paris. It's not our revival. And so basically, at this point, I'm looking at this, I'm saying, how did we go from this? Oh, and by the way, in case you, do any of you know about La Revel? Have you ever heard of La Revel?
Never heard of him.
That was
or it.
That was what they called it here in France. They had a similar name for it in Germany. The same group of boys from Geneva, Switzerland, were in Switzerland, in Germany, and in France. Germany would have a 30-year revival. 30 years. How many generations of people accepting Christ?
Now that's around the same time?
And this is 1830s.
Okay.
And so basically, we go from this point and we say, okay, we now know that in our 1857 revival, we have an issue of Bibles. People need them, they don't have them, they're trying to get them out. In fact, they were working feverishly fast. And as Doug, as any of us know, when you go and you look at Bible societies, you're usually going to have so much data. We gave this many Bibles. This is how we got it to them. This is who, a lot of times there'll even be names of who was involved in the distribution. And the French historians told me, they said, it is so amazing because when we go into talking about our Bible societies, whether it's the British that came in, whether it's Paris, there's no data. They hid who distributed it. They hid how many they gave out. They hid who printed it. They hid the passage to get it into the country.
So was that because, I know France as just being completely, they're very proud of being secular or being atheist. And so that must date back to what, the French
Revolution.
Yeah, there we go. And
Back to the French Revolution.
So, did they hide or destroy? Did they burn churches then?
And think about now what they've seen up till now. The pressure that was happening in Europe by the Ottomans during all of this time from the Turks on Christianity. And then there's fighting between Germany, and there's fighting between Spain and the Dutch and the French, and there's the English and the French. There's a lot of stuff happening with all of these little countries right here, plus the pressure of the Ottomans. Then they've been through World War I up to our time, World War II, and the devastation they've seen caused just this great despair. They had a horrible revolution compared to the American Revolution.
Yes, it was quite different, wasn't it?
It was different.
Because it was atheist, wasn't it?
It was atheist. There wasn't the spirit that was behind it, that's here. And so I think that's why you see the revisionist, history in some of these things.
So they're actually now, interested in finding the Christian history or Protestant history?
Well,
That's amazing to me, that is.
I found two groups of historians. One were secular, absolutely not they're an opportunity for Christianity.
Oh, there we go.
And then the others were Christians that were,
And how did you find the Christian historians?
Well, basically you go from one place, you talk to a person, they send you to another, they send you to another.
Right.
But basically, they've written blogs and articles. And so if you have enough time, you can get a hold of anybody. We were originally going to spend literally a day doing this research. And we got so excited, and we found so many things, and we were going so many different places that we actually were there for 3 days. This is their version of Jeremiah Lampier. And this guy, he's Henry Lutteroff, and he was the grandson. Okay, remember we talked about how Louis XIV killed people, and 500,000 or more escaped to all those beautiful countries. Well, his parents went to Germany, and they were a banking family, and he was filthy, filthy rich. When we talk about tradesmen, a lot of times, I know here in America, I would think about them having a business, good income, maybe a lovely house, great vacations. Well, tradesmen there were so rich. And when you walked into their homes, the detailing, if you go around a door jamb, instead of it being like 6 inches, you're looking at having to walk around a 3-foot, edge on something.
Almost like a palace, really, was it?
It was,
Yeah.
and they lived. We have it. We have the Rothschilds. We have the Carnegie family. Bill Gates doesn't live the life that these people lived.
So he took Bibles, he took prayer. What did he do?
He retired as a businessman, and he began printing a Christian newspaper. He got involved. 3 doors down was this guy, and he was the one that Louis Philippe I gave the charter to for the Paris Bible Society.
Right.
And so basically the two of them were in cahoots getting Bibles out. And in fact, his daughter would marry his son. And the exciting thing about this is that when they started doing this, they were holding it in their meetings, in their homes, and obviously we're talking, they had opulent homes. I mean, reading about their homes was like a who's who in secular French history, all the important things that had happened.
What date is this?
This is September 23rd, 1857.
That's an interesting date.
Does that interesting date remind you of anything?
That kind of reminds me of
There's a couple things here. Obviously, we talked about that was the considered when the 1857, September 23rd for in America. But what is happening, Greg, at that same time in Jewish?
Well, see, we go by our timeline all the time, but God has a timeline with his calendar. And when you started looking this up, I wrote down all of these dates in 1857, August, September, October, November, and it begins on the 4th of Elul and then in the months of Tishri in the Hebrew calendar. Well, you're right in the month of the High Holy Days is
Right.
when that is. You've got the Feast of Trumpets, all of three Jewish festivals of the Lord that have not been fulfilled to the day. Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacles. And they're all in the 7th month of the religious calendar, and it's really what you're looking at is the latter rain.
Wow.
Oh, that's amazing because, I mean, that's us, isn't it? I mean, that's outstanding.
So when I started looking at something and I started comparing that, I noticed something in revival history. Jonathan Edwards, Wesley, 1735, Whitfield, 1740, Mueller, 1835, Finney, Moody, even to Dr. Billy Graham, they're all falling, all of their revival starts fall in that same time. And it takes you into the month of when the rain came on Noah.
Wow.
Right before the judgment. And so we're seeing timeline, I'm watching again the timeline of these revivals following into God's timeline of the early and the latter rain.
Wow. So we've got our French
So
Bibles.
did you ever ask them?
Yes.
Did you ever ask the historians, is there a revival in Paris in 1857?
The secular historian said, I know nothing about it. The Christian historian said, this is what we've been digging out using primary
Right.
documents. And so basically we've got the Bibles. We've got
But
meetings.
the Bible was illegal.
This guy and all those lovely society women who got their husbands saved, Louis Philippe I made it legal again. And not only that, it was distributed from where he was staying.
Okay, so was this revival led by pastor people or was it led by laymen?
Layman. This is layman. But the thing is that the pastor supported it. So when they ran out of room in their homes, they went and they bought properties, Talbot Chapel, which was torn down. They were there. The oratory, the Louvre where we were at, they had meetings there. It was for the elite, though. The problem is, secular historians told me that even though there was this awesome revival, and yes, thank you, Jesus, we found a revival, yes, there was 1 million people in Paris that had flocked in. Well, at the same time period, one of our guys, Frederick, he said, okay, we have revival among the elite in Paris. We have, obviously, 20 years before, this amazing time in Lyon, and again, a revival. He says, what is going on with America? And they had heard about, the French ambassador, I was reading his papers, and 1,400, and, all these different banks, had failed. Will it impact France?
Just prior to our Civil War.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's 1857. This is 1858. And so by 1858, he says, I'm going to America. I want to see what's going on. He had heard, they knew about Jeremiah Lampier. It had reached their shores.
So he came to America to see what was going on.
He came to New York City. By that point, New York City had between 15 to 20 meetings going on. So he goes in with his firstborn son, Theodore, and they have a prayer. And one of the things is read, my son is unsaved and he needs Christ. And 8 to 10 men stand up. Well, Frederick looks to his right and his son Theodore is standing up. And Theodore says, my sweet, I need Christ. And he accepts Christ. It transforms his life. They go back, him and his son Theodore, to Le Havre, which is a seaport area in Western France. And the amazing thing is the entire town accepts Christ.
So they go back changed, and in fact change back.
And they bring
France.
awakening to France. And so basically, Le Havre, they walked in, they rode horses 150 miles to get to where these meetings were taking place. And it was basically the second wave, like what Ulster District experienced in 1859.
Tremendous.
And so when he goes back, you say, okay, maybe that's it. At the same time, you've got 50 nations that are having revival. And the historians, we're all still working on that. But when it happened, it changed each nation. And in France, it brought about their very first democratic election. So meet President Napoleon. Now,
He is related to.
he's the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte that we knew, that sold us the Louisiana Purchase and gave us our country. Right. The French have been involved in our lives for a long time.
Helped us with the British.
Yeah, Lafayette.
Sorry about that. So who is she?
She's one of those lovely, wealthy society ladies that was holding meetings. And she basically had a passion in her heart to get the children, who many of them which were adults now, saved. And so she invited Reginald Redcliff.
Wait a minute, I've heard of him. Okay, I'm going to jump in here now. Who's heard of this guy? But absolutely an outstanding evangelist. He grew up in a Christian family. He was destined to be an attorney,
Like Finney.
Finney was an attorney.
Here we go. But so he had a hunger for the lost, and so he just he threw all that out, and he would win people on the streets, and he would go where people were. So we're just at the beginning now of the Victorian age. So this young girl called Queen Victoria has now become queen, and this guy, he heard that she was going to be coming to his town, because the Queen does, you open a hall and you do stuff. So he would print tracts, and wherever there were people, he would go and hand out tracts, and so then he had a crowd. And so he would jump on any event. Even a good hanging was great, for getting gospel tracts out. But he was a man who was...
There's a plan.
Captive the audience right there. Preach about hell.
There we go. So just a revivalist. But I heard he went to France.
Yes, he did. And the thing is one of the amazing things, the reason he went to France is they had heard that he was holding not 3 times a day meetings, but hourly meetings in Scotland.
A lot of hangings going on.
There's something.
Like a good hanging.
He caught all the coal miners, just like the Whitfield and Wesley did. He actually got invited to speak. Okay, now this guy was never, ever licensed as a minister. He was always a layman. And he got asked to speak.
So wait, you don't have to be a pastor then? Is what never mind.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? But his secret was this, I heard. He was a man of prayer, a man of the Bible. He would go and, just for long walks in the countryside and pray and pray and pray. He was always studying his Bible, and God would give him... He was a passionate... He was really... He may have not been officially recognized as a preacher, but he was anointed by God.
So he's from England?
Scotland. And he spoke...
That's not England,
They're all the same over there. So he leaves there and he goes to France, and he's holding meetings.
Yeah, but before he went to France, he spoke at St. Paul's Cathedral. How bona fide does that make him? And so he goes into Paris, and they've arranged for him to speak at a large venue, and it's got hundreds and almost thousands of seats. It's just a ginormous place. And the thing is you've got Emperor Napoleon, right? And you got the prefect of all the little police guys that don't like Christians. And here he comes in, and that lady set it all up. The streets are thronged. You can't get in to the place. You can't get out of the place. Her, that little innocent face. And she created an event that ended up having so many people that came, that Paris has yet another revival.
And what year is this?
1861. And so at this point, the police find out, they look at this, they're horrified. Oh my gosh, the entire city is accepting Christ. What are we going to do about it? And they say, okay, if you rent a venue for a Christian something, we'll throw you in jail and we will fine the business till they're bankrupt, basically. It was mammoth. And so he starts in on a tour of 42 meetings, and in little places, schools and little churches and all these little places. And the first people to accept Christ are the children of those former revivalists. And there's just a sweep across the board. And so that lady is so happy. Her entire life goal has been achieved. And so at some point after that 42 meetings, they lost count. Because and the historians, they're gathering this from primary documents all over the place. They've been doing this now for years, and I got to bring all this to you guys and everyone that's watching.
That's amazing.
This is Robert Haldane that led the Monod brothers to the Lord that started La Revel. And he is an example of a man who just takes a few months to do something that is going to simply change a continent. One person, and he's not even, you've got all these people who weren't even ministers that were stepping up to do stuff. They just did what God asked them to do.
You know what I see? I see that one person connects to another person, connects to another person.
Right.
Who connects to another person. And that's how the revival.
And that's what it's all about. It brings us to go ahead.
The last place he preached at was the Oratory of the Louvre. The thing that was amazing is as big and as huge a venue as that was, and it supported the 1857 prayer revival, it was still too small. And so they were saying, what are we going to do about this meeting? How are we going to get into a place that's big enough? They said, let's throw an ad. Let's put an ad out there. And a guy, his name was Triot, he said, yes, let's do it. And he said, he wasn't even a Christian. He said, I take care of men's bodies, because it was a gymnasium. You take care of their soul. And basically what happened was they had 7 meetings, and the police, for some reason, didn't shut the place down, didn't penalize anybody. And that was the last big push in his little evangelistical revival journey.
Well, I think I'm going to have to go back and watch this show again, because you've given us a lot of history, and you were just going to spend a day in Paris. Yeah. So, one of the things that I want you to get from, and Pastor Greg just touched on it, is how one thing led to the next. You don't know your sphere of influence, who you're going to affect and who they're going to affect. It is an amazing thing that God does when you do something simple like just sharing the gospel and being the one. This is so much deeper and so much more important for us now, while we have religious freedom, that we take it to the street and then we're able to share the gospel, even when it comes to our own family, when needed, to be able to be the one. Thank you, Linda, for sharing your story. That's quite a journey there. So remember, as we leave the air today, you can be the one. Take time to investigate who God has you to be in your circle. We'll see you next time.